So we're gonna go over. This is basically our version of the couch to 5K or the couch to a half marathon. Okay. So as you can see, we have day one, day three, day five. The reason why I'm doing this is because we're getting into nicer. We're getting into the nicer kind of months. And people are asking us more like, I want to do a half marathon. I want to do a 5K. Help me train for that. So training for those types of races is really, really easy as long as you don't want to try and win them. That's a different story. Okay, so this is basically going to be that you want to do a 5K or you want to do a half marathon and you want to finish the entire race by running the entire thing. Okay, or you just want to be able to just do it and feel good about yourself. First thing you have to understand is that running is very injurious. Okay, there's a high potential for injury with running, and that mainly happens because you are trying to run too fast too soon, right? So, in order to combat that speed, okay, so most injuries in running are related to form breakdown. That form breakdown that causes those injuries generally happens when you're tired. And the way that you get tired is that you try and run too fast for too long, or you try and run too slow for too long, right? Now, out of those two, you'll have a greater potential for injury when you introduce speed versus introducing duration, right? And so basically what that means is that you have a higher potential for injury if you run a 1 mile as fast as you possibly can than if you run 2 miles at an incredibly slow pace, right? Because you're going to have a greater form breakdown with that 1 mile really fast than you will that 2 miles at a slow pace. So here's a couple points to understand. First point is you have 5 gears when it comes to running. Okay, the first gear is walking. The last gear is sprinting. We want you in a gear 2 to a gear 3. So gear 5 is sprinting. Gear 4 is a very, very fast run, which is what most people do. And gear 4 is a slower run. Gear 3 is a very, very, it's like one step up from like fast walking, basically a jog. And gear 2 is basically fast walking. So we want you, like I said, gear 2, gear 3. Okay, maybe every once in a while you get to a gear 4. We kind of want to keep you out of that gear 4 range because the longer you spend in the upper gears, meaning anything above gear 3, so that gear 4, gear 5, the longer you spend in those gears, the greater your potential to have form breakdown and the greater your potential for injury. So we're going to keep you in that gear 2 to gear 3. What that means is that is nose breathing, right? If you're wearing a heart rate monitor, that's going to be your zone 3, right? So if you are, basically you can continue to be in that gear 2 and gear 3 as long as you prevent yourself from breathing through your mouth. Because once you start to breathe through your mouth, that means that you're going to be moving into that gear 4, and then eventually you're going to be in that gear 5. And so that's what you'll see right here. Only run as fast as you can while breathing through your nose, right? So if you start to breathe through your mouth, you start to pant, then you need to stop or slow your distance down or slow your speed down in order to get your heart rate back down so that you can continue to breathe through your nose. Never run on back-to-back days, so don't run every single day, right? You wouldn't come into the gym and work out and do the same thing every single day. Running is no different. If you're trying to hit a certain time, don't increase mileage until you can hit that time. So let's say day 1, you do 1 mile and it takes you 15 minutes. And you say, well, my goal is to be able to do a mile in under 10 minutes. Then you do not you don't go to 2 miles on week 2 until you can do 1 mile at 10 minutes. And then you can increase it to 2 miles. But you don't you don't go from 2 miles to 3 miles until you're able to do your 2 miles in 20 minutes. If your goal is to do 10-minute miles, right? So it's pretty self-explanatory. But week 1, day 1, you're going to run a mile. Day 3, you're going to run a mile, and day 5, you're going to run a mile, right? Now this is basically saying like, okay, you're going to do a half marathon, and you have 12 weeks. You're 12 weeks out from that half marathon. So that's what this looks like. Now, if you're like a lot, if you're 24 weeks out from the half marathon, or if you're whatever, 15 weeks out from a half marathon, 12 weeks would be the minimum amount of time that you want to train for a half marathon, by the way. So longer means that you can be a little bit more conservative. You don't have to be as aggressive with trying to increase your mileage. Okay. If you have a longer period of time, like if you just want to get back to running, then don't go from 1 mile to 2 mile until you're able to do 1 mile and you feel great at the end of the mile. When it comes to running, you should always, always finish your run with the feeling that you could have run longer, right? And I don't mean like another minute. I mean like another 10 minutes. You could have done a mile. That's how you should always finish your running. That way we can ensure that you didn't beat yourself up and you probably finished with very good form and technique and you didn't have any form and technique breakdown. So week 2, you go 2 miles, 1 mile, 2 mile, right? Week 3, you introduce that 3rd mile. And basically every week you're going up 1 mile, right? Until you get to your week 11. Now, you need to be able to do 90% of the distance of what you want to do. So if you want to do a 5K, a 5K is 3.1 miles. You need to be able to do, you got to be able to at least do 2.5 miles. If you can do 2.5 miles, then the extra, 0.6 of a mile, you can do that no problem. You do not have to train for 4 miles to do a 3.1 mile race. Or you don't need to train 7 kilometers to do a 5K. That's overkill, right? Again, this whole video is in the context of that you just want to finish the race, not that you want to set a course record, because that's a totally different plan. Okay? So to do a half marathon, we really only need to get you to about 10 miles. If you can do 10 miles, you can do another 2 miles, right? That's no problem. And that's why you'll see it really capping at 10 miles. Now, I have this 12 mile in here a week before you would actually do the race, because some people, they need a little bit of a confidence boost in order to be able to say, yeah, okay, I did 12 miles. I know what it's going to feel like for the race. So I that makes me feel better. If you're not that person, then where this 12 mile is, just cap it at 10 miles. And then you're going to take a week off, and then that'll be your race day, right? So hopefully this makes sense, and hopefully you guys are going to follow it. It should be slow. You should be chomping at the bit to constantly want to increase your mileage. And that means that chances are you're going to be able to maintain that without having any injuries, and you'll be feeling pretty good. If your goal is to do a 5K, well, then basically you need to get to this 3 mile point, right? And so you'll see that really it takes you 3 weeks to be able to get ready to do a 5K, okay? If you are very, very, very deconditioned, okay, then for instance, let's say your BMI is over 30. Let's say your body fat or your body fat percentage is over 30, then chances are you actually want to go a lot slower and take a lot more, you want to take it a lot more easy, okay? And let's also say that you're not used to getting 10,000 steps in a day, okay? So we got let me write this in here, if BMI, body fat percent, 10K steps. So if your body fat percent is over 30, and if your BMI is over 30 for female for this, and over 20 for male. If one of these things, and if you're not used to doing 10,000 steps, then when you go up here to week 1, day 1, day 3, day 5, walk all of these, okay? In fact, walk all of these until you get to your week 3, where you do your first 3 mile walk. Once you're able to do 3 miles of walking at a pretty good clip, and that's okay if you want to breathe through your mouth for that one. Once you can do that, then you go back to your week 1 and you do a 1 mile where you actually jog it. The reason why we do that is because we want to get your body used to the pounding of running, right? And so if you're over 30 BMI, if you're over 30% body fat for a female, over 20% body fat for a male, it just means that you're going to be carrying more weight. And because you're going to be carrying more weight, we want to be a little bit more careful. We want to give your body some extra time in order to be able to recover and in order to be able to accommodate to that extra pounding and that extra weight that you're carrying. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it makes sense, and I hope that you're going to follow it and you're going to do your first 5K or your first half marathon, and it's going to be easy, and it's going to it's going to encourage you to be basically wanting to do more. All right, guys, keep kicking ass. Every day above ground is a good day.